All right, welcome in Friday morning. 49ers alarm update is aptly named this time because I see a lot of you fantasy managers included. You know that I don't really do the whole fantasy football thing, but a lot of you 49ers fans alarmed about Christian McCaffrey. Last night I told you to chill out, and well, it looks like there's some corroboration to that. Tom Pelissero this morning said that I do not get the sense that there are alarm bells going off at this point based on the digging he's been doing. That's the same sense that I've been getting here for over the last 12 hours at this point. That's why I said chill out, wait for actual full story information to come out. I understand the PTSD regarding this because it was last year at this time, maybe a couple days forward, heading up into that Jets game. It was the day of the Jets game that Christian McCaffrey was ruled out of week 1, and then he was put on injured reserve with the Achilles tendonitis. So fans are fearing a repeat. But you have to remember that NFL teams are required to put every single small thing on an injury report. So if Christian McCaffrey misses just a couple snaps because he's tending to something minor, he's going to be listed as a limited participant. That was the deal yesterday. He was out on that practice field to begin. We can watch. Yesterday, we were allowed to watch the first 3 periods. It looked fine over the first 3 periods. Obviously, something popped up a little bit later, but nobody on the outside knew how serious or not serious it was. And we're dealing with extremely limited information. So that's why you make some calls around. That's why you snoop around. You see what the vibe is coming out of the 49ers building. And Tom Pelissero said this morning he gets the sense that there are not alarm bells going off. Or he says, I do not get the sense that there are alarm bells going off. So that's quite the 49ers alarm update. You can turn down the alarm bells. The way that it's going to work today is that Kyle Shanahan's going to speak after practice, which is a short session. It's at 12:35. We'll see if Christian's out there. Even if he's not, then we should wait to see what Kyle Shanahan actually says about this at about 1:35 p.m. Now, another kind of crazy narrative, people just making stuff up, people who aren't in the building don't know how this works. And even some people in the building didn't get this one right. They said Christian McCaffrey always speaks on Thursday, and he didn't speak yesterday. He actually spoke more than once on Friday last year. Like Friday turned into his designated day. He had actually shifted that because what happens is that the 49ers, they've got a lot of star players, and those star players have more organized sessions with the media. They don't go up into the auditorium. They still speak at their locker. But Nick Bosa, for example, likes to go on Wednesday. Last year, Deebo Samuel would also go on Wednesday. I think Fred Warner has always been a Wednesday guy as well, although don't quote me on that. I'm trying to remember. This year, he was Wednesday for sure. George Kittle has always been a Thursday guy, and Christian McCaffrey had frequently been a Thursday guy, especially entering last season. Now, I know that he wasn't available for all too long last season, so maybe that's why people's memory there fails them. But he did actually go on Friday last year more than once. I don't know the exact count. I don't, keep track of this obsessively. I think that it's a little ridiculous that people are looking at it in that way. But he can go on Thursday or he can go on Friday. I don't see that as being something that you could look at evidence-wise. Oh, my God, this is something really serious. What you have to do here is realize that back in a more sane age, before this insane social media circus that we have now, fantasy football, all this and all that, people would actually not be able to consume news until the full story came out. Because if you could only get off 5% of the news, like, oh, Christian McCaffrey limited with a calf issue, if you don't have 95% of the picture and you get off that 5% through a tweet, through a YouTube video, social media, whatever, then everybody's going to fill in the blank, fill in the 95% that they don't know with their imagination, which I get it. Your PTSD helps fuel your imagination in that scenario. In 1997, this was the example that I used last night. Like back in 1997, there's no Twitter. I guess there's an internet, but people aren't really using it with the way that they are today. All of this is very, very different, right? The next morning's news or whenever the newspaper comes out is actually going to have a larger pool of information from which to collect, and then the full story can be told. So now we just kind of live and die by every successive 5% of the story that comes out. And it doesn't really have to be that way. You could just chill out, sit back, and realize, yeah, Pelissero said it today. I said it last night. Not getting a sense of alarm bells at this point. I mean, if there was something seriously, seriously wrong, then that comes out in a report. That's something that starts to actually hit the news wires. That's something that actually starts to get leaked out. But you have an injury report where every single player that does miss any portion of practice for whatever reason, could be very, very non-serious, that player has to be listed. And that's where Christian McCaffrey found himself yesterday. So again, I get it. A lot of people have a lot invested in Christian McCaffrey this year. The 49ers have more invested in him than anyone. They are more incentivized to play things cautiously than anyone else. Trust me, there's more on the line for Kyle Shanahan and company than there is for you and your fantasy team. And the 49ers are going to operate accordingly. I would expect him to play against Seattle. What we're going to see, though, based on exactly what happened here, I, too, want to get the full picture. That's the main thing that I'm emphasizing here. You could get a sense, you can call around, you could see what's going on, but I too want to get the full picture, and I'm not going to make any crazy proclamations just to get clicks until I do. Happy to talk with you guys, though, about the 49ers this morning and a preview of this game against the Seattle Seahawks. Tim and I have our 5 fast predictions up on the San Francisco Standard, and actually Christian McCaffrey is mentioned in one of the predictions as a prominent role for San Francisco. So you can go ahead and check that out. We're going to go ahead and toss this link into the description. I'm going to go ahead and put it onto the comment section. I'm sending it over to Mike as we speak. That's ready to go for you. Do you guys think that I picked the 49ers to beat the Seahawks, or do you think that I picked Seattle to beat San Francisco? That's actually at the bottom of the piece. I'll give you a hint. I think analytically, Seattle actually has a little bit of an edge in this game. Now, the guy that's up on your screen, Brock Purdy, the guy that we're talking about, Christian McCaffrey, they can theoretically erase that advantage by giving the 49ers offense versus the Seahawks defense a big enough margin to overcome the 49ers inexperience on the other side of the ball. So all of that is possible. But this, to me, is actually on paper, the toughest matchup against Seattle the 49ers have had in several years. Purdy is 3-0 as the starter up in Seattle, which to me is remarkable. He, last year in the Week 6 game, played a very efficient game, and he got help from 49ers youngsters on defense. Malik Mustafa and Renardo Green both had interceptions. Remember Renardo running the route for DK Metcalf there in the fourth quarter with his pick. And the 49ers won 36-24. When they lost to Seattle later in the season, on paper, I thought they were still superior to the Seahawks, and they were dominating the game defensively up until Nick Bosa got hurt in the second half. Seattle was behind when Bosa got hurt. Seattle came back, took the lead, won the game after Bosa exited the game with the oblique injury. So on paper, I thought the 49ers had the advantage in both matchups last year. They obviously lost the second one. This year, I don't see that same advantage on paper. I see this as being one of the 49ers' toughest games of the year to open the 2025 season. So I think it's going to be a hell of a test to begin things. I think there's going to be a considerable amount of pressure on Brock Purdy, especially if Christian McCaffrey is somehow limited in this football game. That ratchets up the pressure on the 49ers quarterback. We already know no Brandon Ayuk for the 49ers. We do know that the receiving room is getting healthier and healthier by the day. Jordan Watkins, the rookie, returned to practice. I wonder if he's going to be active, though, given the fact that he has missed about a month with the high ankle sprain. We know the 49ers have veterans who have now been with the team for a little bit of time who should know the system, especially since Marquez Valdez-Scantling played in the system previously. Robbie Chosen has been with the 49ers for 2 training camps now and the entirety essentially of this one, and he can get called up for this game as well. And of course, they've been seeing Ricky Pearsall do really good things with Jawan Jennings now back in the fold as well. So there are weapons on this 49ers offense outside of Brandon Ayuk and Christian McCaffrey, and I haven't even named probably the biggest one outside of those guys in George Kittle, who did speak yesterday for the 49ers as well. Going to be fascinating stuff in Seattle. They're talking about the Seahawks, Jaron Reed, their defensive lineman. They're talking about having the best defense in football this year. I don't necessarily believe them, but I think they're good. I mean, we're talking number 6 EPA from week 11 onward for the Seahawks last season with a really good secondary. I get that Reek Woolen has been inconsistent, but Devin Witherspoon is unquestionably a really, really good cornerback. Julian Love is a really good safety. They moved Kobe Bryant over the safety. They added Nick Emanwuri, a very versatile DB, to that back end. We know that Mike McDonald liked to run very, very tailor-made packages for specific opponents. I mean, it could also be that the 49ers are like, something minor with Christian McCaffrey. Let's put it on. Let's make sure we put that on the injury report to play some games with Mike McDonald in Seattle. That kind of stuff does happen in the NFL. I think it's a little bit overrated, but McDonald's a really good coach, a really good play caller, and the way that he has tailored his defense against specific opponents in the past has, I think, been very, very specific and just impressive in my mind. The way that they're amorphous in a way. And that's why he has Nick Emanwuri on his team. They drafted him in the 2nd round out of South Carolina because Nick, he could play a linebacker-like position. He's a strong safety, but he's also fast enough to cover. And one of the big question marks in this matchup for me is, how does Seattle use Nick Emanwuri? And a lot of that, I think, is a direct potential antidote to how the 49ers might use Christian McCaffrey. Because the 49ers, and you could listen to, and Mike, if you have this clip from Mike McDonald, he talks about how the 49ers are so special with how they can use their offensive players in an amorphous way. He talks about Kittle. He talks about Deebo Samuel in the past, and obviously Christian McCaffrey. I mean, there are Shanahan systems or Shanahan disciple schemes around the league. One of them, the 49ers are going to be going up against Clint Kubiak, the Seattle OC. But what Mike McDonald said is that nobody has done the positionless skill position thing better than Shanahan and the 49ers. Nobody has been able to deploy somebody like Deebo Samuel as a wideout and as a running back, and Christian McCaffrey as a slot, sometimes even as an outside wide receiver, also in the backfield. George Kittle has taken handoffs for the 49ers. Nobody has pushed the envelope as far as positional adaptability to stretch and confuse opposing defenses thin as much as Kyle Shanahan. That's what Mike McDonald, the Seahawks head coach, said this week. So the natural way to combat that is through a defense that's also adaptable, through safeties who can play the run, through linebackers who can defend the pass, right? Linebackers in coverage. I mean, that's been the centerpiece of the 49ers defense since this regime took over. They drafted Fred Warner in the 3rd round out of BYU in 2018. But the Seahawks, when they turned around their defense last year, they made a couple changes at linebacker, right? Now they have Ernest Jones IV, acquired via a trade. Tyrese Knight is starting at linebacker as well. So their top 2 guys are different. That helped spearhead a defensive turnaround. And they added Nick Emanwuri this offseason, who's listed as a DB, but I think can do linebacker-like stuff, which is a great compliment to Nick Emanwuri. He's an interchangeable player, and he's meant to combat other interchangeable players like a Christian McCaffrey, like a George Kittle. George Kittle is also very interchangeable for the 49ers. So long story short is, this is week 1. There, tendencies based on Clint Kubiak and Mike McDonald and what they do as far as their history of calling plays, but you don't know specifically what these guys are going to do with this iteration of the Seahawks. And they don't know what the 49ers are specifically going to do with this iteration of talent. Like all the new players the 49ers have on defense, obviously some changes on offense. For example, the 49ers now have Luke Farrell, and George Kittle made this point yesterday. They invested quite a bit of money in Luke Farrell for tight end 2. An investment like if they had been able to keep Charlie Werner before he hit free agency. It's the kind of money that Luke Farrell is now getting. That means that the 49ers are going to be running 12 personnel, probably 22 personnel, and they're committed to it, at least until it really doesn't work and they have to back off of that commitment. But I think that the 49ers are very confident that it will work because of some of the blocks that they think that Luke Farrell can execute. So the 49ers are not going to be constrained to just running one tight end or 21 personnel, which is 2 backs and 1 tight end. I think there's going to be a lot of 12 this year. There's going to be a lot of 22. That's just the way that Kyle Shanahan likes it. Christian McCaffrey is obviously a big part of those plans as well, because he's going to be one of your 1 or 2 backs. And you know what? They also signed Brian Robinson, or they traded for Brian Robinson. And that could be somebody that takes a little bit of a load off of Christian McCaffrey, but B, it could also be somebody who's in the backfield 22 personnel wise. The reason I'm listing all these possibilities is because that is what Mike McDonald's and Seattle's staff is dealing with right now. They're going through all the possibilities of what the 49ers might potentially throw at them based on the new names that have entered Shanahan's mix. And Brian Robinson Jr. is definitely one of them who's connected to this Christian McCaffrey situation. All right, I'm going to go through the update on Christian McCaffrey right after this. Chubby's is the sponsor of the show this week. Are you ready for some football? If you're not, Chubby's is ready to help you with their NFL collection. Whether you're tailgating, grilling, or riding the highs and lows of the game from your couch, Chubby's is the officially licensed NFL gear to keep you looking like the ultimate fanatic. With bold designs featuring your favorite NFL teams, Chubby's game day gear isn't just comfortable, it's a statement. Rep your team's logos in wildly comfortable polos, wave-making swim trunks, and gym-ready mesh shorts. Yeah, you heard that right. Swim trunks with your favorite NFL team's logo on them. All the comfort and swagger you need to take on every touchdown dance, chest bump, or dramatic fourth quarter meltdown. If you're not a jersey guy, this is an elite alternative. If you are a jersey fanatic, something tells me you'll love their NFL collection. Because when you're invested in the game, your outfit should be too. For a limited time, use our exclusive code Lombardi for $10 off at chubbysshorts.com/Lombardi. Yes, that includes the NFL collection. Let the thighs out and let the good times roll. Folks, for a limited time, our friends at Chubby's are giving our listeners $10 with the promo code Lombardi at chubbysshorts.com/Lombardi. That's $10 off your order with the promo code Lombardi, and that includes the NFL collection. Support our show and tell them we sent you. Express yourself and level up your game day wardrobe with Chubby's. All right, thanks to them. Back to Christian McCaffrey. Alarm bells are not going off, so it's a fitting alarm update. I'm updating you on the level of alarm. It is not high coming out of the 49ers facility. If you would have watched last night, then, and I'm sure a lot of you did, then I hope that you got the same sense. You know, I could even tell you guys what I tweeted last night. Like the situations like this are tricky because you're waiting for more information to come out and you want to convey what the certain vibe is coming out of the 49ers building. And, you know, I have smart viewers, I have smart readers, and I think that you guys can often get the tone and the vibe of something when it can't be said completely directly. But there's a video of George Kittle talking about being eager to see or to block for Christian McCaffrey on Sunday. And this came after practice. So after Christian McCaffrey was limited in practice. And, you know, there was no alarm from Brock Purdy talking after practice either. So anyway, I quote tweeted the video. It's from Matt Lively, who does a really good job covering the 49ers on the TV side. And I said, and I'm going to repeat this, and this you could pair it with Tom Pelissero's quote. And sometimes you've got to use a little bit of brain power to parse through some of the messaging that we're trying to get across. But I said, I will say that patience is a virtue. Let's try living in the pre-social media days when a reaction wasn't needed until the full story of what happened emerged. So chill out. We're waiting. Tom Pelissero said, I do not get the sense that there are alarm bells going off at this point. We can understand the triggering PTSD caused by the lead up to week one, the very immediate lead up to week one last year. I get that, but every situation is separate, and the 49ers, a lot of people advocated bubble wrap McCaffrey, bubble wrap McCaffrey. Sounds like they bubble wrapped McCaffrey yesterday. Sounds like something popped up, and they're like, oh, okay, let's make sure that he didn't practice anymore today. Let's protect him from himself, and let's move forward to Sunday. Actually, today is the final practice of the week. Thursday is the longest session of the week for the 49ers. And then on Friday, they're out there. It's more like walkthrough speed. It's definitely like walkthrough length, that they're only going to be out there for about an hour max today. 12:35 is the time. I don't know if Christian McCaffrey is going to be on the field or not at 12:35. We'll report whether he is or not at 12:35. And then Kyle Shanahan about an hour later is scheduled to speak. So at that point, we'll get a firmer update. And then after that, the 49ers locker room is going to be open. And as I said earlier, there were times last year where Christian McCaffrey actually addressed the media on Friday instead of Thursday. So the whole Christian McCaffrey didn't address the media yesterday, you really can't read that far into it. He might talk today. We'll see. I'll be down at the 49ers facility. You should hit the sub button and the alarm bell, I guess, notification, since this is a 49ers alarm update. Hit all those notifications so you know, and I'll deliver the video and I'll deliver the news. The full update that I've been advocating for this whole time, like the big picture look, like so we know what actually happened. Once we collect that information, I'll have all that for you early this afternoon Pacific time. I understand that we've got people probably tuning in from all around the world, since this does have fantasy football relevance. So Pacific time is what we deal with here. 12:35 p.m. practice for the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan speaking about an hour after that. Shall I dig into the chat section? I'm reluctant to do so today, but maybe I will for a couple of questions. Luke says Christian may play. That's not the issue. The issue is this is a lasting issue. This is not tendonitis, though, Luke. This is that this was listed as a calf issue. If this was something with a tendon, then it would have said Achilles. I mean, this is my point. Like, without full information, we could just sit here speculating forever, and I'm sure a lot of channels are doing it. I'm just not going to partake in it. Like, it's already like we have our first assumption that's based off of an incorrect assumption, right? It's assumptions based on assumptions. I mean, you could go down the line here and drive yourself crazy. Chill out. Or every single NFL player has a shelf life, right? And nobody plays until they're 65 years old in this league, especially at the running back position. Yet injuries happen at every single position. So yeah, there's a question and there's a concern for every single player who steps out on the field. How long is his body going to be able to hold up in this extremely violent sport? That's a concern everywhere. It's not just a concern with Christian McCaffrey, but that's also why we should wait for the full picture in every single injury situation to actually have an accurate appraisal instead of running around like chickens with our heads cut off. I like this one. None of this matters. We'll find out on Sunday when he either plays or he doesn't. Yeah. Well, and until then, I guess people are just going to be talking about it. I mentioned nobody played till they're 65. Brady tried. He made it till 45, but he still was about 20 years short. What's the record in the NFL outside of like a specialist? I'm sure. Did anybody make it to 50? I would doubt it. I mean, 50 would be insane. The NFL. But Brady made it to 45, and he didn't look 45, which was impressive. He did look 45 in that game against the 49ers, which was Brock Purdy's first career start. Speaking of that, our predictions for 49ers Seahawks are up there. The oldest player in NFL history is George Blanda, who retired from the league at the age of 48 in 1976 after a 26-season career as a quarterback and a kicker. He played for the Chicago Bears and the Oakland Raiders, retiring just shy of his 49th birthday. So Brady was 3 to 4 years short of George Blanda. Brady played till 45. George Blanda, days shy of his 49th birthday. Morton Anderson. How old was Morton Anderson, Mike? We've got a question. How old was Morton Anderson when he finished his NFL career? Morton Anderson with a single bar face mask, right? I don't think those are even allowed in the NFL anymore. I think you've got to have the full face mask now. But back in the day, there were kickers without a face mask and kickers like Morton Anderson with the single bar. Somebody's saying Morton Anderson was 47 years old. That's what Mike said. So Morton Anderson almost made it up to the very top, but not quite. George Blanda holds the title. Okay, I'm not going to assume that Christian McCaffrey doesn't play, but I'm gonna. This is just for argument's sake. James asks, how confident should the 49ers be in Brian Robinson in his role as a starter? Well, I think he's close to a starting caliber player. He's had over 700 rushing yards in his 3 years in the NFL. So the 49ers are stronger at running back 2 than they have been in quite some time. I say that because he's a better receiver than Jordan Mason was last year. Jordan Mason was a really good runner. Nobody's taking that away from him, but the 49ers offense is so predicated on the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield and have that rapport with your quarterback. And I think that somebody like Brian Robinson, who has 65 catches over 3 years, has been able to deliver in that regard. Now, Christian McCaffrey's better. Christian McCaffrey's the best. Like, it's one of the best to ever do it as far as catching the ball out of the backfield. So you're never going to be able to fully replace him if he does miss any time at some point this season. Again, not saying he's going to miss time on Sunday, but we're talking about depth and how the 49ers would pick up slack in this situation. So you're not going to be able to fully replace Christian McCaffrey in the receiving game, but you can upgrade from the troubles the 49ers had last year when McCaffrey and Guerrero were not available. That was an issue with Jordan Mason. Now, I thought he was better last year. He really worked on his hands entering the 2025 or 2024 season. Remember, he talked about catching the football with the jugs machine that his dad set up in the backyard. That was a really cool story. But I just don't think that there was the rapport needed. Like, it's a spacing issue. It's a feel issue. The quarterback, so Brock Purdy in this case, needs to be able to trust where that running back is going to be. And that only happens when built up over a long period of time. And I just don't think it ever got to that point with Jordan Mason, which is why you saw the receiving numbers, and especially like yards per route run were obviously much lower with him than they ever were with Christian McCaffrey. Brian Robinson actually delivered a very, very strong yards per route run season 2 years ago with Washington. So he definitely had rapport within the context of that offense. Now it's a question of how quickly the 49ers can build it with him. And that's then going to be a function of how creatively they're able to integrate him into the offense earlier this year. I think that, McCaffrey, if he plays on Sunday, he plays all season, or if he plays, the first month, however long you've got both of these guys available at the same time, McCaffrey and Brian Robinson Jr., I think it actually behooved the 49ers to give Robinson some good, solid play time, not necessarily to take pressure off of McCaffrey, although that's obviously a benefit, but to make sure he develops in-game rapport with Brock Purdy in the pass game in the way that I'm talking about. Make sure that Purdy, when he's, blinded by a pass rush, is able to get the football out to a spot that he doesn't necessarily see on the field. This happens a lot in the NFL, and he can trust that Brian Robinson Jr. is going to be there. Make sure that that's a possibility for Brock Purdy, because I don't know if there was ever a level of trust between Purdy and Jordan Mason and Purdy and Patrick Taylor Jr. I know there wasn't with Patrick Taylor Jr. We saw that game against Miami where it was all over the place. I don't know if there was ever a level of trust that allowed the 49ers to replicate what they had as far as a dump off, check down, emergency outlet option to Christian McCaffrey. I thought that Purdy really started to develop something with Isaac Guerendo down the stretch run of last season. And it makes sense because Isaac was a receiver before he turned into a running back. So sometimes those types of players that you would hope have the natural ability to deliver in that way, have the natural ability to know where to move so their quarterback can feel where they are. It's not just about the X's and O's and the diagramming of a play up on the overhead projector. It's also about feeling defenses and making slight nuanced adjustments. And in the NFL, where stuff is determined by inches, right? The 2 inches can determine whether or not something's a touchdown or a pick six. All of that is extremely, extremely important. Morton Anderson played from 1982 to 2007. So he played from the year after Dwight Clark made the catch against the Cowboys. So the year after the 49ers' first Super Bowl, all the way to 07, the Mike Nolan era. Morton Anderson was in the NFL. From the 49ers' initial peak all the way till, 06 and 07 were lean years. He played from Joe Montana, young Joe Montana, to Alex Smith in the NFL. Because Smith entered the league in 05, right? I think Joe Staley entered in 07. Even more impressively, he played from Montana to Joe Staley. That's a nice, long career for Morton Anderson. Is Colin Kaepernick actually good at quarterback sneaks? All I remember him with a quarterback sneak is a fumble against the Rams at the goal line in 2014. Yeah, either way, you don't bring in quarterbacks just to run sneaks for you. You know who's good at the quarterback sneak is Brock Purdy. He's got an 88% conversion rate with this sneak. I mean, the 49ers are nearing tush-push level efficiency with the quarterback sneak. Jimmy Garoppolo was good with it too. Whatever they're teaching in San Francisco as far as the quarterback sneak, I think has been very effective. Purdy's got those big, strong legs. I would think that Purdy would be much better at a quarterback sneak than somebody like Colin Kaepernick, who got the longer frame, obviously has long strides, can take off quickly on a 40. It's what Purdy isn't good at. But Purdy's got the big, strong, compact legs, so he's really quick and he's really strong, so he could burrow his way forward. They call him Baby Bosa legs for the quarterback sneak. Jimmy was one of the best in the league at the sneak, and he probably got it from Brady, who was really good. It's not, again, it's not just also about brute strength. It's about that there's positioning that has to happen for a quarterback sneak. You feel where that hole is. Check out the article up on the Standard. We've got our 5 predictions, including score predictions for this football game. Any more questions as we go through this on Friday morning? Yes, when people make assumptions, Greg, they can be wrong. I would say that when people make assumptions, they're usually wrong nowadays in the NFL. There's a lot of wrong going around. I will say, bringing this back to the top, for those of you who are just joining, what Tom Pelissero said, I'm getting the same sense. my phone calls, my reach outs, whatever you want to call it, I'm getting the same sense. The 49ers, the alarm bells are not going off right now regarding Christian McCaffrey. That's why I said what I did last night. We had a whole post saying don't lose sleep over this. Chill out and just try to treat this like we're in simpler, more healthy times where you don't have to react to every little breadcrumb of news. Wait until the whole loaf of bread is out in front of you. And I think that the loaf of bread will be out in front of you at latest today by like 1:30, 2 o'clock or so when Kyle Shanahan speaks. So we'll get a little bit more context, but freaking out over stuff that you don't know if it's a big deal or not, that's just not a really smart way to operate. Tom Pelissero earlier today, to follow up on my video yesterday, he said, I do not get the sense that there are alarm bells going off at this point. When do the 49ers travel up to Seattle? Tomorrow. It's a West Coast game tomorrow. Okay, this right here is not. This is based. You're basing something, and I appreciate the super chat. He said, with a history of Kyle and John telling us that injuries are nothing, and then the player misses the entire season, you don't see that as a cause for concern. Okay, when exactly did that happen? First off, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch will say what is known at the time. So I think you don't have a specific example of when this happened. There just isn't one. The 49ers, so like last year, Christian McCaffrey, the Achilles tendonitis popped up during training camp. The 49ers thought that it could be managed. They thought that it would get better. It got worse. It's not like they wanted it to get worse. So it got worse, and then they had to put him on injured reserve. And even last year, when a lot of people were accusing them of, that they're saying that he's going to be back, but he's going to be gone for the season, who ended up being right there? The 49ers actually ended up being correct there. They expected McCaffrey back. He did return. He returned more quickly than a lot of people were saying he was going to return. And Achilles was actually healthy for the rest of the year. So just because some content creators or some, wise asses on Twitter, we'll put it that way, think that they've like cornered somebody in a lie about a return to injury when they themselves have no medical experience, have no insight into how these players are recovering. Just because you think you've cornered somebody into, they've given false information, doesn't mean that it's true. Okay, the NFL, this is a violent sport with unpredictable return timelines, and everybody's just doing their best. You have to report everything. 49ers reported what could just be a really minor situation with Christian McCaffrey's calf. You have to report everything, and people then take those things, even if they are minor, and blow them out of proportion on the outside. And then they use that with circular logic to go and accuse people of lying about the injury. It's just not really fair. It's not an intelligent way to break down what's happening in the 49ers building. You react to information as it comes out once you can develop a fuller picture. And that's the only way that you're going to get this stuff right. This is a good question. I'm looking for it. Who will be inactive right there on Sunday? That's, to me, that's fascinating right now because the 49ers had everybody at practice yesterday on the entire 70-man roster. So if you look here, let's get this up. We will put the injury shade on Christian McCaffrey just for the time being because he was limited yesterday. But if you look at this roster, and we could take it off of Jordan Watkins. I hadn't had a chance to update this. There we go. So assuming McCaffrey's ready to go and he's not one of the inactives, and we'll see, obviously, later today. But assuming that's the case, who is going to be inactive? Because you can only have 46 up on game day. Plus, you're calling guys up from the practice squad. Remember that. There are 2 elevations from the practice squad that can make it a 48-man roster. So I'm guessing that at least one of your elevations is going to be Russell Gage. Do you also call up Robbie Chosen? Or do you have to go running backs and Sincere McCormick because of the McCaffrey situation? I don't know. And we enter this with the biggest amount of unknown that we've had regarding inactives because there are so many guys healthy and available for the 49ers. Yesterday, again, that was the first time that I'd ever seen a practice where all 70 were on the field, at least to begin the practice. And then we learned that Christian McCaffrey was limited after, but he was certainly on the field at the start. So that's going to make the inactive situation trickier to identify. I've speculated that there's a chance that Alfred Collins, the defensive tackle, is inactive. I don't think that would be a huge deal. I think people would make more of it than is actually there, but that's a possibility. They're certainly not going to have 10 defensive linemen active, so somebody's got to be inactive in that D-line room for the 49ers. So much of what happens on the back seven as far as actives and inactives will be dependent on special teams. You're probably going to have at least one running back inactive in this game. Both QBs have to be active. That is obvious. At receiver, Juwan Jennings is on pace to be active for the 49ers. Maybe Jordan Watkins will be one of your inactives since he hasn't had much of a chance to practice. And then at offensive line, well, probably I would say Connor Colby and Drew Moss would be two inactives because you could use Spencer Burford as a backup guard and tackle. Matt Hennessy is your backup center and guard, and Austin Pleasance as your backup right tackle. So at least two of the inactives, I think, will be Connor Colby and Drew Moss. A third might be Jordan Watkins. Fourth might be one of the running backs. Fifth and sixth will probably be defensive linemen. So either Collins, Beal, or Okiwanu. Or if Yetur Gross-Matos is unable to go, but he did practice yesterday, he could be one of them. And then your final inactive will probably be either a linebacker like a Nick Martin, but he could be a good special teams guy for the 49ers, or one of these defensive backs. But yeah, I don't think that you want to make a defensive back inactive just in case depth issues pop up there. Those are my predictions for the 49ers inactives. And I got one more message for you. Chill out on Christian McCaffrey. Sign up for the subscribe, whatever you need to do so you know that the update is coming from here a little bit later on. I will be at the facility. We'll have the full picture for you, which is the smart way to analyze things. That's coming up a little bit later today. So stay tuned. We will talk to you very, very soon. Oh, Mike has a message to me. Does he want me to say anything else? Mike wants me to stay live. We're going to stay live. Mike is like, stay live for a little bit longer. All right. We're screw it. I'm not leaving. I am not leaving. It's going to take the National Guard to stop this live. We're still live. We're going to be talking a little bit longer. Mike is loving it right now. Mike is just sitting here laughing on our text thread. So funny stuff. Yeah, people loving that Mike is saying what he did. So, I mean, we did lose like 100 people because they thought that we were signing off, but I think they need to come back on because we're staying live for now. Mike is funny. Best Leonardo DiCaprio movie? I will say that I was pleasantly surprised by Titanic when I first watched it like 2 years ago. I saw it way late. But Wolf of Wall Street is hilarious. That's where the line comes from. What do you think the best Leo movie is? I thought The Revenant was one of his worst, but ironically, it was the one that he won Best Actor for, and I think it was just a Lifetime Award instead of for a movie where he didn't speak. I didn't think that one was very good. Departed, Kevin says, not close. Shutter Island, interesting. Catch Me If You Can is really good. Catch Me If You Can is really, really good. Everybody's saying to Departed. Best sandwich at the stadium? I don't know. I've never eaten a sandwich at Levi's Stadium. That's a question I really can't answer. Tomorrow, I'm going to be a judge at the San Francisco Fire Department chili cook-off. So that's up in the Marina Green. You can go get your tickets. Supports charity. It's going to be good. Chuck's Flavor Train. He does great stuff covering food, and he's a big 49ers fan. He's going to be another judge out there with me tomorrow. Can't wait for that. So yeah, I'm going to be eating really well. Every firehouse, and I got the fire station number 13 hat here. Here, give me a second. Let's get this hat. If I could reach it, man. So they might accuse me of bias here, but this is got to straighten out the hat. This is Fire Station 13 over by the Transamerica Pyramid. Brock Purdy's number. They've got a big signed Brock Purdy jersey up in the firehouse. Now they're going to have one of the stands tomorrow at the chili cook-off, and that stand made a really good chili last year, but they didn't win. So they number 13 really wants to win. I can't remember who won last year. Might have been like Fire Station 27 or something. But they start making gourmet chili at this thing. Like it is really, really good. Like we're talking Wagyu steak and just above and beyond. It's one of the cool events in San Francisco every year, and I'm honored to be a judge again before I fly out to Seattle tomorrow. It is a delicious event indeed. Yes, Jake Moody has been practicing. He's not hurt. How confident would you be if Jake Moody lined up with the 49ers down by 2 points with 3 seconds to go from 45 yards out on Sunday? Now, that's something that might give some people PTSD. So this is the kind of stuff that's calm down. The 49ers should have traded one of the best players in football who is going to be the X factor in a lot of offensive success this year just because he missed a few snaps of practice in a violent sport. Like, please, let's chill out. Let's chill out. Some of these takes, it's just social media is just getting to be too much. Not a lot of people have confidence in Jake Moody, at least in the comment section. Jake Moody yelling, "I'm not leaving." Jake Moody pulling a Leo DiCaprio from Wolf of Wall Street. Look, we have confirmation from Trey Lance himself. CMC is definitely starting against the Seahawks. Moody's undefeated at Lumen Field, just like Brock Purdy. All right, your homework as we sign off here is to go and read the article up on the San Francisco Standard. Predictions for 49ers Seattle. Everybody, thanks for watching. We will talk to you soon.